Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Melby Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Also, below this video, there is a link to get £50 for switching your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. With that, I'm going to hand over to whoever is in Google and Discord so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Sound check.
Morning.
Okay. Good morning.
Morning. It's not morning in Britain, is it?
No. I was just thinking exactly that. But that doesn't matter. Question, right? Good morning? As in, are you having a good morning?
Morning, anyways.
Hey, Righteous.
Yeah, it's 5:32 in the morning here, so it's relative to me.
Say something, Righteous.
I'm trying to fix my mic. Sorry about that.
Ah, yeah.
No, I just said, well, good morning, anyways.
Morning.
Two good mornings, one good afternoon. I was just watching
So,
Brian's
you guys all-
video.
Yeah, it's good. I saw it too. It's a good video.
Yeah, I'm on the 15-minute mark, so I'll watch it later.
Good. I'm glad someone like Brian's doing that. It's very calm, collected, to the point. Yes, it's in depth. Yes, it's quite a long video. But that's the kind of person that needs to be doing it. No offense to Anthony Riley, but Anthony Riley's a lot more antagonistic than Brian. So personally, I think as it's obviously dealing with people who have a similar outlook on the world, shall we say, to us. So I think, yeah, Brian's the perfect person to be doing that. And good job, Brian. You know, some of the things that were in there, especially earlier on in the video, I didn't know, you know, because I don't know what they're basing their description on. So to have Brian break it down for me and then show where a lot of it's assumed, you think, oh, that's nice to see. Because I was never going to look into it, so thanks very much, Brian. As is so often the case when it comes to Brian. He's the one doing the actual work.
Well, I mean, you've had panel members come out. I mean, I'm now on the section myself, but prior to me, I mean, QE has so many areas he's good at, so he's brought a lot to the table that none of us knew. Then Arwen brings stuff we don't know, and Anthony brings stuff. So the panel sees something and say, you know what, I'm going to dive into that and see what I can find out, and then does a presentation and helps everybody.
Right.
I'll tell you who's a pit bull is Dr. John D. He's
Yeah,
all over.
thumbs up on him too. He's done a lot.
Yeah, Dr. John D is ace. Ain't no doubt about that.
Yeah, I could even pun with him in light of the current circumstances. He's done good work.
That spectroscopy joke.
Yep.
Boom, boom.
Del, speaking of puns, man, I had more chin puns than chins in a Chinese book the other day.
Oh, you'll have to keep them under wraps till they're appropriate, I'm afraid. You can't just randomly drop it in a chin pun.
It was funny to see you jump in there. Oh, that was so funny.
Keep it under your hat or your chin strap, whichever's more appropriate.
My bad, dude. I didn't know you unmuted me, Nathan. My bad if I was hot micing.
Okay, Don. I think it was probably righteous, actually. I didn't know she come in, but good to have you.
Nice to be here, man.
Discord too loud was obviously
Gas go down, boom, boom.
There we go. That's a bit better. Just give me another. Can you say something else, Don?
Yeah, I said gas go down, boom, boom.
Gas go down, go boom, boom. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, do they?
No.
Oh, come on. It's got to.
Does a flat tire count?
He's here now.
Hey, check this out, Nathan. I had the most funniest response from a Glober trying to explain the geometric horizon. They said the only way you can see it is if you remove the atmosphere. Really? So you don't have it then? So you're already assuming.
How did Alberuni measure it? Oh, he didn't. Yeah, that's right. We don't see the geometric horizon, even though it used to be asserted to blocking boats and buildings with a physical feet and inches or meters value attributed to how much it was blocking things with its physicality. What's that? You say we don't see it? Oh, interesting.
I thought they credited it to him for removing the atmosphere just for that one time.
Well, Alberuni in his massive atmospheric removal device. No, that's a new one on me.
That doesn't work?
They just assumed it. But he was measuring the horizon as though it was a physical sphere edge, based on his assumption that he was on a sphere, and then he derived an R value from it. Now we're told we don't see the geometric horizon. As I say, it used to be asserted to be blocking boats and buildings now, didn't it?
Now, say that was beautiful the way you said that, because that's how they say you take measurements to the center of the Earth, because they presuppose a sphere, and no measurements on the surface of the Earth can work with a sextant because you need two straight lines to form an angle. The only place you can form that angle is if you assume you're on the sphere and go to the center and create your vertex, and then have those lines come up underneath the surface because they'll all be the same angle. It's the same thing there. They assume that as well.
Exactly. An imaginary tangent plane to your zenith. Because where do you get a straight line from on a sphere? You don't.
Yes, you do. You put another circle on it.
No. That's Rumpus trying to get around the fact that currently their line to the horizon's bent. Well, no longer a tangent is my argument. He's saying you can have a curve meet a tangent. It's like, okay, so you're saying that you're going to draw out the imaginary tangent that you don't have anymore. Yeah, we know. But that's his justification for why the line to the horizon is now bent. Well, obviously it's okay to have another curved line meeting it at a tangent point. Like, yeah, where'd you get the tangent from, though? You need that, right? That straight line? Well, you haven't got it anymore. It's absolutely necessitated by their geometric claim. Debunking the model. I know. It's beautiful.
I know how they do it. I discovered it studying the sextant. They have a local horizon with a local straight line, and it keeps moving whenever they're on the curve.
Yeah, the local horizon is 90 degrees to the zenith. It's the tangent plane, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right, so they're assuming a tangent that they haven't got. That's where the argument fails. Now, it's currently been phrased in the Black Swan as they don't have a distance to the tangent point. That would be their geometric horizon. But that also ruins their necessity for the straight line in the first instance, the tangent. Well, if they haven't got that straight line, which they definitely haven't, then they can't perform geometry.
I was trying to explain it to my wife. That little 3-minute video you had the other day was good.
Well, that's follow up on that. Follow up on that. They can't perform geometry from the surface, but they beg the question. You could do it at the center with a vertex.
Yeah, we've unravelled the assumption process, and there's a few missing pieces that they just cannot acquire. One of them is a tangent. The other is a tangent point. What a happy coincidence it's appeared on screen. Marked with an X and labelled horizon. That's their tangent point. The straight line to it is the requirement that they are asserting in geometry. Don't have that straight line, you're not doing geometry anymore. And to get the R to assume it to move the horizon to that position with a bent line, no longer a tangent, they've got to acquire the R in the first place, and they get it with a straight line to a tangent point. So the tangent debunks the model. They haven't got one. It's just that simple. Oh, well, we assume it with a zenith and a tangent drawn out from a local horizon. Well, that's a load of assumptions that I couldn't care less about.
Can you keep it on the slide for a minute? So you see the dotted line underneath, that would be a chord, C-H-O-R-D, in a circle. And that is a straight line from point to point, as you could see. And that's what they need on the surface for the sextant to work. But since they got that curve, it doesn't work. So that's why they take it from the eye camera. That line goes all the way down to the center, which is blocked off. And then from the very right, that part goes down to the center. And that's how they get their angle coming from the center out. Because as you see that green line on the top where the X horizon is marked, the minute the Earth falls away on the left side and right side, impossible to get angles on the surface of the Earth using a sextant because of the curve.
Exactly. If you've got a curve, you haven't got a straight line. And that's what you require. And we've debunked it. It's the end. The assertion of Earth curve with geometry, dead.
And buried.
Yeah, so been over.
Yeah,
Now we're just gathering up the scraps.
John.
I was going to say that I've used a sextant before. I've worked with surveyors, years ago, but that's why the black swan hit me so hard. Like when I first got into this, I was thinking, what are these guys even bringing up the calculator? It's just showing that we're measuring Earth curve, Like what's the matter with these people? Why are they arguing about it? Like I just couldn't understand it, And then the black swan come around, and you're not measuring Earth curve. It floored me to think about, because that was the whole claim.
Exactly. The horizon's not Earth curve. It's just that simple.
Yeah, but it used to be.
Certainly did. Not anymore. And 12 months after the Black Swan, it's now 14 months to be more precise, after the Black Swan first came out, we're now at the point where we can have a little chit chat of it, and in our little chit chat, we're summarising the argument over and over again because we're so accustomed to it. It's just frustrating that so few people on the other side get it. Almost in every instance when they come here to challenge it, they don't understand it.
There was a guy on 24/7 on Ladies' Night, and he went over this whole thing with Polaris and how he did his measurements, and it only works on a sphere. And he has people right now that are working for NASA on the Perseverance mission. I was like, oh my God, this guy he's lost.
He measured an angle to Polaris from what?
From a tangent plane. From what's the name of the horizon again, 10th?
Excuse me?
What's the name of the horizon they used to derive a 90 degree to a tangent? To a zenith, my bad.
Well, they have, again, I'm not quite getting it. So if you're doing it their way, you got to have the geographical position of the star at one place, and that's a zenith going to the center. And then wherever you are is, of course, curved away, because in their model, you live on the ball. And then you're somewhere on that circle with an exact angle to that star, anywhere in that circle. But that has to be a flat plane to get that angle. So I don't know if that answered it.
The astronomical horizon, I think.
Oh,
that's what I was fishing for. Thank you, John. Yes, the astronomical horizon. Correct.
Well, we only have one. That's why I got stuck. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, precisely. That's it. You've got to invent other horizons. 90 degree to my zenith. Okay, but the horizon moves with the bloody weather. Yeah, but we're inventing one that's 90 degrees to us, because then we can do all of our calculations and apply our trig. So you need a flat surface to do your trig then. Yeah. that's
right.
That's how it boils down, right?
Right.
They need a foldable local horizon to do their trick because it's being done on that all the time anyway. But think about the many different horizons they do make up. When I found out whenever you see the word rational horizon, you know what that means? The equator line.
All right.
What a joke.
Yeah, but what got me was his declaration of NASA and the Mars rover. And he's like trying to throw out that, listen, you're idiots. We're on Mars. I have people that are working in NASA right now, relatives of his.
Yeah. So
Just want to.
got people working on the ground at NASA, okay. And that proves that there's a second law of thermodynamics, sky vacuum, that would take away all the gas we're breathing for them to travel through to get to Mars. No, definitely doesn't. Having people work isn't an argument.
That's right. That's what I wanted somebody to say. Nobody was saying it.
Wait, there. Why didn't you
mean
say it?
People working at Mars, Mars, people working with NASA above Mars doesn't debunk the second law of thermodynamics? Come on.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wanted somebody to just throw that out there, but they didn't. They just kept, dealing with this guy and the Mars. I don't know. It just gets very frustrating at times because that's what I would have said. How are you even traveling there? What they're looking at is just data in a room.
Right. There's somebody out there is offering $1 million if you can prove all this.
Prove all of what? The second law of thermodynamics is an established natural law.
Right. I'm just saying, $1 million up for grabs.
For what?
I posted the video.
For what?
Yeah. To
tell me the
prove
name.
he
I'll
wants
collect it.
he
I
wants
proved it with
evidence
the
of a
sex
Are you
spinning
talking
globe.
about proving the globe or proving?
He's trying to
Yeah.
answer, but everyone's
Globe.
talking over him. Try one more time, Don.
Yep. Proving the globe. He's offering $1 million, right? He's got money and 2 fat bars of gold. If you could prove the globe.
2 bars
Or
of
give
gold
me-
if you can prove we're on a sphere. Well, no one's
Yep.
going to get that, are they?
Yeah, no one's
Nope.
going to get
They
that.
won't.
Oh, I'm going to do it today.
Well,
Oh, yeah. That should be good. Hold on.
I'll tell you one thing.
Everyone, go ahead, John.
Well, I don't think this geometry that we're talking about Euclidean geometry. It's obviously pseudo-Romanian pore space.
And?
Well, you can't. Why couldn't you just accepted that?
What, just accepted that you could prove the globe today and then just roll over and say, okay, obviously you're going to be walking away with $2 million worth of gold? No. No one's going to claim that.
Hold on. I can pull this together somehow. I used to be able to do it really well.
That's all right. Take your time. There's no pressure.
Yeah. Let me get in a good pun. When you offer a carrot to a horse, it usually follows. Here we're offering 24 carrots.
Listen, it's a smart bet because ain't nobody proving that.
Okay.
He's got the money.
Here we go.
He's
Go ahead,
asking
John.
for it.
Go ahead, John.
I got it. It's pseudo-Romanian pore space. Of course, the tangent line would appear bent to an observer in a 3D world, but it's actually straight.
You say an observer in the 4D world because you can't have that.
Oh, yeah, time is a dimension.
No, you don't have observers in pseudo 4 space. The mathematical conceptual realm that you can describe things mathematically, but you can't observe things from there. So if you're saying, well, by observation through I'm trying to link this together for you now. Through the bending of geodesics in space-time, you're asserting that the line to the horizon's bent. Man, that's terrible. That's really bad. But no.
It's on. You just got to accept that dumb shit. And the rest
Have I?
Won't they go to spherical geometry and try to change that into that?
No, he's not talking about spherical geometry now. He's talking about pseudo-Riemannian 4 space. He's talking about bending geodesics and saying because we've got something bending, he's loosely translating that to bent tangents. Okay, that's terrible, John, but I love it. I love it all the same.
I think it's coming. Like I'm seeing the future of the argument because they need that horizon to be physical.
That's correct.
But it's not doing that.
Well, they need it to be a tangent point. It isn't anymore. There's no going back, right? Modus tollens, bitches. There's no going back from this logical consistency. And every attempt to rewind the clock or undo the damage that the Black Swan has done to the argument, that is to say, destroy it, leaves them in a worse spot. So, it's refracted. Look at all those bendy cranes. Oh, right. So no tangent then, no straight line to this horizon then. Right, refracted. So geometry dead.
Globebutters?
Go on, Neil.
It was all about the Black Swan. They were talking about that a lot.
Excellent.
And,
good stuff.
Crazy. Yeah, it was pretty good. John the Morgile was back. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he was back in action.
Have I ever heard of him? You having me on?
Oh, the Morgile was back. He was live. Sounded very good, too. I'm happy for him. Hope he keeps it together, man. I like the Morgile.
I love how you ask if I've heard of him.
Journey, I used to watch his videos. He was good.
Yeah, I love how you ask if I've heard of him. I've interviewed him about 5 years ago. Have I heard of him?
You kidding me?
Nathan knows more guy than you know about Morgile.
I wouldn't be doing this show if it wasn't for people like Morgile, though. So, big props to people like Morgile.
I left hateful comments in his channel for like 3 years.
You were trolling him?
Yeah, I trolled Morgile.
What was your screen name? No, this is good. This is good stuff, and I'm glad you're honest about it. What was your screen name at the time?
Oh, shit. It was, crap. I'll have to go look.
If you could.
I deleted that account.
Well, it's one of those that, I'm sure if I shared that with John, the other Morgile, let's just call him Morgile. If I shared that with John, let's try that again. If I shared it with the Morgile, I'm sure he'd be appreciative because, most comments, you do read them, they do stick in your mind sometimes, and, you're not as dumb as they get in terms of globe heads. I'm not saying you're dumb at all, but I'm getting at. There are some fairly drongo comments that you'll immediately forget. But I'm pretty sure yours won't be amongst them. So it'd be interesting to sort of pass on the information and say, look, this is a guy that used to troll you. Do you remember the name? See if the Morgile does actually remember it. And they say, well, he's actually a guy that does really well at debating globeheads now as a flat earther, having seen the light from the Black Swan. Interesting also that, did you say, Neil, that it was Morgile talking about that on Globebusters last night?
Yeah, there was all of them on. The Morgile was on live, which it was on. They were really focusing on that the Black Swan, and a lot of times the guy said they see too far. Who's the guy that makes the video? Is it BLM or something?
Yeah,
not sure.
That'll come with time. The whole see too far, yeah, it bugs me and has done for a long time. But now I've started voicing it. You can only hope that people will rewire themselves. In other words, it's not beyond the sphere. The sphere's not real. It's like seeing a clock. It's not that it's something exceptional or that we're seeing further than we should. We're just seeing stuff. And that's how it should be and is. That's reality. So it's not too far. You're just seeing a good distance on that day because it's clear, as opposed to too far. Why is it too far? Well, because a globe says you shouldn't see that far. Well, who cares? Don't compare it to some old dusty antiquated model that we've debunked in comparison to what we should or shouldn't see in reality. That just sucks you back into the paradigm.
Can I make a point back to the tangent and the point? I'm looking here at mathplanet.com. It's an introduction to geometry. A point in geometry is a location. It has no size, i.e. no width, no length, and no depth. A point is shown by a dot. A line is defined as a line of points that extends infinitely in two directions. It has one dimension, length. Points are on the same line are called collinear points. So when Rumpus brings two spheres and has them touch each other, which isn't what we observe in reality or any way to prove we live on a sphere, but when he does that, he's got to go back to how geometry works. A line is a bunch of points, and it has to be straight. There's your tangent. He doesn't have one.
Exactly. That's where the argument dies. If you're going to be doing geometry, you need a tangent. If you can't get one, you can't get one. That's it. Your claim's over. Your geometry's dead. Black Swan killed it. The Earth is beyond the geometric capabilities of a sphere because it isn't one. It is that simple. We're not seeing too far. It's just the limitation that's supposed to prevent us seeing too far isn't a limitation. Sphere limitation is nonsense.
I feel like the people that actually come up with the ideas for R and 7/6R, if they were faced with this, understanding of what the horizon is not, I don't think we would have the heliocentric religion right now.
Well, that's an appropriate prediction for the future, or I can certainly translate it into one. Going forward, based on what you've just said, the globe can't persist. It is, as I've described it in the past, untenable as a paradigm. It's left with a paradox in terms of deriving the claim that you're on a sphere in the first place by assumption. That's been debunked, and the rebuttal leaves it in a paradox. So there is no way out for the sphere. It's not a sphere. That's obvious and observable. And like most things that are obvious and observable and initially decried, eventually they're accepted as observably obvious. And the people who don't recognise it when that sort of switch happens are kind of then become the ridiculed minority. It's like, well, we all really already knew that it was flat. In other words, suddenly the ridicule just fades away. Things get opposed and are violently opposed and then accepted as being obvious after the fact. It's weird how it works.
Yeah, when the Black Swan first come out, and like the knee-jerk reaction to everybody, like while I sit on my couch and my head was spinning, was to start saying, "Oh, it's just refracted," and I was like, "You can't do that," like, because I understood what you were supposed to be doing with the theodolite. You're supposed to be measuring a dip angle. Using, measuring with straight lines, angles, not curves. Like, what the hell? Why do people even try to say that?
Well, I didn't get it. I'm glad you got it because I didn't, and that was funny because it leaves me capable of telling this next story, which is that I suggested to Quantum Eraser that he used a different image. I was like, here, this one was only taken a week later, and it's like so much clearer. There's all this definition. It looks really romantic. It's got all the flames going. It looks wicked. Use this. He's like, nah, I want to use the one I've used. Well, I point out to him that all you get is a rebuttal of refraction. They just say, look at the bending refraction on it. And he's sort of, if he was in front of me, he wasn't. He'd have given me a knowing look. But, I sensed the knowing tone in his voice when he's like, no, that's what I want him to say. I want them to say refraction because obviously you knew full well that you need a tangent, that it's supposed to be a physical point in their geometry that obscures things. The moment you say refraction for the horizon, that's the end of the model. The response, which he's orchestrated to a certain degree, and it came thick and fast, right? We wouldn't expect to see geometry. It's all refracted. The geometric horizon only exists in the maths. It's refracted. It's like, oh right. So the horizon's not Earth curve then. Bye-bye, globe model. It's all over.
It's got to be the best setup I've ever heard of in my life.
For me, it became a wrap as soon as they started calling the horizon apparent.
Yeah,
It was
apparent.
like, wait a minute. Hold up. It's already apparent. Why are they calling it apparent now? Oh, because it's not geometric anymore. Now they got to distinguish between the two. That's cute.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below the video there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Neil, Chocolate Saiyan, Father of a Stolen Child, the Adam Meakin, Chocolate Saiyan, Arwin, who's just joined and will probably not realise that I'm introducing him as I mouse over him, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Monday.
Morning.
It is. But given that I do sometimes repeat these shows over the weekend, better that you don't necessarily mention which day it is. Anyway, any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, that's a horizon, formerly known as physical Earth curve, blocking boats and buildings and stuff?
No.
It's there in the model.
They're in the maths.
No, when that disappeared, all of a sudden there was this creation of what they call an apparent horizon, which seems kind of redundant, being that horizon is defined as apparent. For some reason, they decided calling the horizon apparent. Why would that be? Anybody know?
It's not geometric anymore. The Black Swan debunked the claim that we have a physical geometric sphere edge, that would be a tangent point, horizon. Formerly known as Earth curvature, now debunked by the Black Swan. They don't have a straight line to the horizon, so it's not a tangent point, it is not physical, and to call the apparent location where the sky meets the ground or sea, the apparent position where the sky meets the land or sea is utterly redundant, as pointed out by Chocolate.
I know why they call it that, Chocolate, because after the Black Swan, the Globers have a better line.
Boom, boom.
Well, it has to be physical, right? Like, we live in a physical and natural world, so then it has to be refracted if it's physical.
If it's refracted, you can't get a
Well,
tangent.
I thought it was a physical ball. And it's funny because when I ask people, well, the horizon's supposed to be your curve of the Earth. Looking at the Black Swan, your curve of the Earth has suddenly moved 10 times further than where it's supposed to be. Is that happening? They're like, no. I'm like, well then, it's a problem because that's supposed to be your curve of the Earth. Why is it over there? Hello.
I got this. I got this one.
You got again. Twice in one show, John. Wow, you're on fire.
It is a result of the inertial movement of a globe through an asymptotically flat universe. That's why we end up with the Black Swan horizon.
Right, have you just paraphrased bending geodesics into a slightly different verbiage there, John?
Maybe.
Maybe? What do you mean maybe?
I'd say he did it in a roundabout way.
Well, it's physical. We see it because we live in a physical and natural world. It has to be the edge of something.
It has to be Euclidean force space that we can't observe things from. That makes no sense. We covered this in the pre-show. But you're going to keep pulling at this string, are you?
No.
I mean, you can. I don't mind. You can try and farcically link pseudo force space to bending tangents if you wish. I don't mind. It gives me an opportunity to point out that to do geometry, you need a straight line, and if the line to the horizon is bent, i.e., the rebuttal they give us for the black swan, then they don't have geometry.
Well, if you'll just give me R, I can prove a sphere.
Perfect. Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius.
Only in the model.
And there we are.
Yeah.
Only in the math.
It's $2 million if you can prove it. $2 million bet.
No, it's a million. 1 million. 1 million. He said. Yeah, he's offering.
We got bets on R now? What?
Yeah, there's an over and under as well.
Just get clarity for the live audience, if you don't mind, Don. Can you just explain what this million? It's gold bars, right? But if you can just reiterate that we're live now.
Yeah, the guy is offering $1 million if somebody can film a real live video of the Earth being a sphere. He's got 2 bars of gold and a stack of money. If he can do it.
$1 million.
Yep. If you can, actually, it was if you could show a video of it spinning, or is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what he's asking for is video from Narnia, and he'll give you $1 million, basically. So if you can enter this, go on.
That's what they said they got.
Don't we pay somebody like 62 or like 60 million every day for
Take them to
something
court.
like
Oh, you better take the offer. That gold is going up.
that gets millions of dollars to show us just that?
Look, if NASA got hold of his gold bars, they'd be melted down, put on a hot air balloon, and crashed.
Right.
Oh man, today's show is gonna be great. I can feel it.
Oh yeah.
Happy Monday, guys.
Ballers.
I can't wait till we get gas pressure without a container. Oh man, you're gonna have a laugh.
Any evidence of gas pressure without a container?
Oh,
Well,
funny you should ask. I was just over at Jim Panda's where I was told by Scott Beach that you can have a pressure gradient inside a container, but that means that you don't need one.
Wow.
What an epic quote.
I just lost like 10 brain cells, bro. Just hearing that.
So say it again, Elon.
And I'm sure
repeat?
he said, because we were talking about needing to have a container, and then we started talking about pressure gradients, and I said, well, you would require a container for a pressure gradient, and he said, no, a pressure gradient in a pressure gradient in a container proves that you don't need one. There's a number of things that they said that I can't, because I'm not going to sit here and lie like I'm the best debater about like gas laws and all that, but I was told that temperature isn't proportional to temperature.
Who said it was
Always,
a magic trick?
and then it was
just got to disagree with whoever that was. Don't pipe up just yet. So a magic trick is like you see a bird in a cage, and then they put a sheet over it. The cage vanishes, and then the bird reappears somewhere else. That's a magic trick, right? Now this is very different because this is a rebuttal to how can you have gas pressure without a container? And what he's done is he's held up a container and gone, look into my eyes. There is no container. Right, we all clear? So this is an example of gas pressure without a container. Don't look at the container. It's not a good magic trick if you're going to call it.
Nathan, do you remember when Blue Marble Science or Hillbilly Blue Balls? He did a very similar thing where he said, I'm going to get gas pressure without a container. And then he used a big massive pipe that up the side of his house and then expected us to think that the pipe wasn't a container.
He also wheeled in butane in a container.
So you're saying it's not a magic trick?
And I'm not the most... Sorry, Neil.
Go on, Neil.
Saying it's not a magic trick, it's more of a hypnotism?
That's what I'm saying. He's telling you to
Yep.
look into his eyes, not around the eyes, and there is no container. Right. Now, this container is a demonstration of gas pressure without a container. You understand? That's what he's doing. It's pathetic. Anyway. Expecting
Lateral
an
movement
affirmative
of
answer in
gas
that.
Was
is actually
also
what's
told.
contained.
I was also told that they don't necessarily have to do with the atmosphere because the gas laws and what the atmosphere does is different.
Yeah. So when you're talking about sphere-shaped air, something that doesn't exist, it disobeys the laws of nature. They say that the laws of nature don't apply to their sphere-shaped air law. It's got its own laws. Now, you can't see air taking the shape of a sphere without containment, but they assert their air does it, and therefore natural law, the laws of nature, don't apply to it. No, we just don't have sphere-shaped air. It's a begging the question fallacy. Air that's sphere-shaped without containment? Yeah, the law of air in a sphere shape without containment says you don't need containment. Oh, really? Oh, well, that sorts that little problem out then. Natural law, we might as well chuck that in the bin, shouldn't we? No, natural law still applies. Just doesn't apply to their sphere-shaped air. So what can you take that to mean? It means natural laws don't apply to the sphere-shaped air around a globe in a vacuum. That's because we're not on a globe in a vacuum. That's just a model that natural law can't be applied to. Shout out to Logan's
Nathan,
Run for joining as a member.
Nathan, I have a question about that. So, if we were living on that model, what would happen if at very high altitude, it kind of in between where the gas pressure is really low and pressing on all that air to keep it down on the ball? What if at that point somewhere you got there, and then you release a whole bunch of gas? You open up a gas tank. Is that gas gonna fall down, go boom boom towards Earth, or is it gonna spread in all directions on their model?
On their model, the gas
You would
go
have
down, go
gas
boom, boom.
pressure in the first place.
Well, no, they have layers. They have homogeneous layers of gas that they label up, right up to the vacuum. And they're pressing down, go boom, boom, even though gas is in reality expanding in all directions. But as they say, natural law when it comes to gas behaviour doesn't apply to this, because their gas, not gas in reality, but their gas in sphere-shaped air goes down, go boom, boom.
Everything's different up there. That's what they claim.
So, if you open up a big gas tank, then it's literally just gonna show this stream of gas going down towards the Earth.
No, you
it's
can't
not
go.
gas, it's
Owen's been not
atmosphere.
being careful enough with these words. No, not show, because it's not happening in reality. That's never going to be shown. That doesn't happen.
On their model.
And
No,
then I said that the pressure is proportional to the temperature, and then they said no, it's not. And if you guys are listening, I asked you to come on to the show so we can suss this out. But they said no, it's not, because look at the thermosphere. And I said, don't you guys say that the temperature in the thermosphere is much less because of the lack of molecules? Like so how could it's not a high temperature because of the lack of molecules in your story or whatever.
Sorry, thermo what now?
Yep.
The
I missed-
thermosphere, the circle.
Oh, it's a thermal area that's sphere-shaped. Wow, that's interesting. Anywho, yeah, natural law, not applicable to this nonsense with sphere-shaped air in a vacuum. Yeah, natural law doesn't apply to that. To say it's all different up there, Neil, is what's known as a special pleading with a P fallacy.
I knew it, but let me tell you something. That M. Scott Reach guy, he will frustrate you because he really seriously believes that science has advanced past the scientific method, that they're on the higher science now.
No, you're mistaken. He doesn't believe that. He's lying to you that you think that he believes that. He's not believing it. He lies.
Look, in some ways he's right. Don't look around the eyes. This is not a container. Right, see this container? That's a demonstration of gas pressure without a container. And we are the higher science. No, they're just pretending to be science. And of course they're going to elevate themselves above the empirical. What? How dare they? Right? No, he's just a pretender clown Muppet lying to people. But he needs to, like any good con man, convince you that he's legit. He's not science. He doesn't have any science. What he does have is...
You hit it right in the head. He's a con man.
He's a con man.
Empiricism.
Exactly. Right, and that con man comes by to my comments to check how much quote-unquote damage we're doing. Don't you, M. Scott Veach? Just checking on how much damage we're doing? Yeah? Yeah, because you're scared of us and the damage we can cause when we expose that you're a con man and that your father lied to the world about an area that's basically Narnia. Space is fake. Second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to your model. Well, they're claiming to be travelling through that realm. Yeah, Daddy was a liar, and Scott needs to check how much damage we're doing when we point that out to an audience. Space is fake. Anybody claiming to be there, that'll be astronauts, are liars.
How about how much damage his father did? You know, he's defending the honor of his father. Zanuck is defending the honor of his uncle. Why don't they just come clean?
Because they're not clean. They're dirty.
Probably because they'll have a light
people.
aircraft disaster in the near future if they did. Never been on a light aircraft in their life, but you can bet your bottom dollar if they did come clean, that's what will be happening next.
That, or worse, they could be incarcerated for having gone insane. Right?
Or
They could
a
do
car
anything.
crash.
It's their contract. They contracted to do that. Once you sign it, there's no way back.
I thought science doesn't prove things to these people.
Depends.
Sign.
If we prove a just so story wrong, then science doesn't prove things. It can evolve and our story can change. But that's what a con man does, right? An empirical method can be checked. No, it can't. That's why you do science. To offer some empiricism to your question about how the world works. That'll be natural phenomena.
Moving on.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Funny you should say that, because I watched a movie last night called 2012, where the Earth's core dries up and everything around it, the crust, it all begins to break, and the Earth is destroyed by crazy weather. Could be a factor.
Cool story, bro.
Oh, okay.
Is that it? 2012 is your evidence for molten iron core? Am I hearing you correctly?
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. The Mayans said it. They have to change the
The
date because
Mayans
2012
said it.
bad. But, you know, the molten iron core is going to dry up, and Earth is just going to implode on itself.
The Mayans said all that? Can I see the original text for that?
The
Did you
Mayans.
videotape it? Who was the Mayan that you spoke to?
Yes. Where did he
They
carve
made
his testimony?
They made it a movie. 9 years had passed, but that doesn't matter. They just changed the date. It may happen in 2022. But the molten iron core will dry up. Don't you know?
Wait, you telling me I should be afraid?
Well, maybe it's just gonna dry up in the model, right? Anything.
Yeah. No, that's already been solved. See, the molten iron core is oversized because Thea smashed into Earth at a glancing blow. I've covered this a couple of times last week.
No, but the relieving thing was that I know the truth. And, like, I was laughing at the whole thing, but some people really believe that this could happen.
Okay, what about evidence of a molten iron core in the first instance? Any of that?
No, I can't find any evidence to that.
A bummer. Should we be terrified about it?
No, when you come to flat Earth, it's just a breath of fresh air. I no longer have to worry about asteroids hitting me at magic speeds.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Don't hate on the magic speed now.
Come on, Neil. You know there's air brakes.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No evidence.
Air brake.
I don't know where it is. There's clouds right now. It should be somewhere over there.
Thank you for that Danish update in terms of the sun's apparent location, Arwen. Any evidence of the distance to the sun, though?
It's all I got. That's it. It's over there. Whatever it
No,
is.
what is the sun?
Say again, Neil.
If you want, oh,
What is
sorry.
it?
I don't know what it is.
It's a light that's over there. That's all we know. We don't know the distance.
Here's my point. It's taught in school. My son just had, I put it on Master B. My son was doing his homeschool and he had a test. And the whole test was about basically space because they had a Neil Armstrong story in there. And he called me over. He's 10 years old. He said, Dad, look at this. And it was a multiple choice question answer that I had to choose from. The right answer was C, that Neil Armstrong is a fictional character, but he had to put down D, that Neil Armstrong was not a fictional character and that it's a historical event that happened in America. So my
Okey-dokey.
point is this. Why are
did.
we allowing them to teach that?
It did. It just
Because
happened
that's
in the
true.
Hollywood basement.
Neil, gotta read what it actually says. What does it describe it as? A historic event. What's a historic event, Neil? An event in history? So something that is logged in history. That's absolutely 100% accurate, Neil. And that, apart from memory holes and people forgetting, that is stapled into the rhetoric of society currently. So it is a historic event, Neil. Now, did that historic event take place in reality? No. But is it still a historic event? Oh, absolutely correct.
Right, so it could not be called a scientific event, but it can be called a historic
Hold
event.
on, let me read this question to you, and you tell me how my son should have answered it. Neil Armstrong was an American astronaut. He went into space more than once and was the first man to walk on lunar soil. He stated, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," as he took his first step on the moon. He took many photos of his adventure and even took photos of his footsteps. When he returned to Earth, he received many awards for his amazing efforts. He was awarded the Medal of Freedom and the Congressional Space Medal of Honor. He is thought of being an American hero. Now,
Yeah.
the answers were, is it A, personal, because this is a story that actually happened to Naomi, whoever Naomi is? Personal, because it is told from an author's point of view? Fictional, because this is a made-up story of an astronaut? Or D, biographical, because the story tells real facts about Neil Armstrong? Now, this pisses me off because the right answer is C.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
Well,
what you're saying
yeah,
is...
well, he is historically a real-life actor. And the act was so amazing that he's got all kinds of applaud for it because he had so much impact with the act, right? Oh,
I
they
had
don't
to
tell
tell
you
Okay,
it's
hold
an
on.
act, though. They don't
Hold on a
tell
second.
you.
Neil,
I had to tell my son that he had to put down D.
Neil, let's rephrase the question and change it from Neil Armstrong to Jesus Christ. Yeah? Now have
No,
it...
no, no, no,
Whoa,
no,
whoa,
no.
no.
Oh, let's
Go
make it
there.
easy. Yeah, that's
yeah, let's go. I'm okay with that.
Okay, 10 minutes said go, so it's a go. Go ahead.
Okay, so you paraphrase the question with Jesus Christ. Now, I set the scene 500 years ago, where instead of a heliocentric rhetoric, we had a predominantly church-based rhetoric. And the teachings of the church would be about men like Jesus Christ, would they not? I'm looking for Neil's agreement, not yours, 10th, because I might lose if I talk about this with you.
Yes, you would. Amongst others, yes.
I'm just making a comparison, Neil, and saying that back in the day, if the overriding worldview, paradigm, religion, whatever word you like, was about Christianity, and the teachings, which is what you're dealing with currently, were in line with that, no shock, right? That's how it is. That's the paradigm of the time. And now we've got a paradigm of men going to the stars, and, you know, they're effective or what's the word? Allegorical gods. They're the guys going to the stars. Well, you're being taught within that rhetoric. So that's no surprise to me.
Sure.
Why am I
Mute.
being rumpused? What's going on?
No, someone was playing music while you were talking.
Yeah,
Nick.
Tony is not on mute.
Tony.
Oh shit! Sorry.
Pain in my ass.
So these are the club.
I thought I was on mute. I'm sorry.
All right.
Why am I not surprised?
All right. I've got so used to interruptions from fundies that I can just about deal with it, but it's still irritating.
Sorry.
You're
Okay.
still not on mute.
Shut
know,
up,
but-
Alvin.
I'm waiting to talk.
You sod. Right, let's get back on track.
I'm hoping
Right,
to cause enough
just get back
disruption
on
now
track.
that
Right.
the conversation's lost and I can say something.
No, I'm trying to get it back on track.
Nathan, it was good.
I'm desperately trying to get it back on track. I'll add a fifth attempt. So, we're drawing a comparison with the overriding paradigm of 500 years ago being a Christian one. Given this analogy, in my set circumstances, it will be because of this example. Doesn't matter what it actually is, right? Therefore, them teaching about Jesus being, let's say, the ascension. Yeah? They teach that, and that's what you're expected to know and recite. Well, in this case, they're talking about Neil's ascension into the heavens, and you're expected to know how that story is told to be true, because that's the rhetoric, right? Well, we've gone over this a million times. The end result is you don't have to have your kid in that particular circumstance when you've got control over them. You're responsible for them, but you can, of course, put that responsibility in the hands of Big Daddy government, and don't be shocked when they want to tell them their stories, because it's their stories in their institutions. I don't know why this is shocking to you, Neil.
No, I understand all of this, but it bothered me that I had to tell them, you know the right answer, but you got to put down what they want.
Yeah, but
And what they
Neil,
want is C.
the right answer is what your kids had said and done, and what my kids had done. They put D, and then they come home and say to Dad, "You'd never guess the question we had." I had to put D, but obviously I knew it was C, and that's what I want my kids to do. I don't want them to put C. I want them to put D, come home and laugh their tits off with me about it.
And with good reason, Adam. And Adam's correct, and with good reason. Now, check out Thrice 8 Hermes, who's covering this subject currently. About, I can't remember the category name he gives it now. It's beyond me, but it's not the point. There's a certain subset of people that will appreciate that you do have to a certain degree, function in society. Now, if your kid is at the stage where he comes back with having been presented with the question Neil presented us with here, and says, I understand that this is the correct answer. However, society says this is the correct answer, therefore I gave that answer. That's good. Because if, for the sake of argument, you had taught them that D was whichever, C I think is the answer, that it's just a made-up story, and they gave that as the answer, the consequences of that being, in this context, the wrong answer, and it is, in that context, the wrong answer, then there's societal consequences. So the person doesn't understand that to toe the line of the rhetoric is what gets you a pass, doesn't understand how the society they're going to be working in, which is what school's preparing you for, requires. Now, the kid that does know it gives the right, in quotes, answer, and then moans about what he actually understands and what society expects, is a well-educated kid. That's a kid I can be proud of. So, you know, Adam, in terms of if that was a scenario you actually experienced, it probably isn't because we're talking hypothetically. But if that was an experience, I'd be super proud of the kid. I'd be like, yeah, great. So you understand that in societal terms, there's certain things, little coats, straw men coats that you have to put on and do things in a certain way because society says you have to do them in that way. Now, your choice is, if you want to do that in society, you have to behave in that way. But obviously, when you're no longer required to do that in that structure and that place and time, you can take that coat off. But understand that that coat still has to be put on. I'll give you an example because it's very topical for people who might watch this show that are also involved with the act realm, conspiracies and all that stuff that we don't necessarily cover here. For example, there'll be people who will get arrested because they refuse to wear a mask in a semi-government controlled corporate shop. So they go in, they do their shopping, they don't wear a mask, and they get arrested. Now that mask is like your straw man coat when you go and register your car. Do you want to be pulled over constantly because you want to claim free man? Or do you put your stupid straw man coat on and go and register it because in society, to drive around without being bothered all the time, you have to put your straw man coat on and go and get your car registered? Well, this is no different. Me, I stick it on for the 25 seconds I have to get past the guy in the front door, and then it immediately goes into a position that's not going to piss me off, but it's still technically being worn as requested. You know, I realise it's pointless, and I do it because you have to. because those are the rules set out by the person that you want to shop from. Now, you can shop elsewhere. You could grow your own bloody vegetables if you wanted to, right? But no, you're choosing to operate within those societal structures, so you have to wear the coat that's required. And the kid that understands that at the end of his education is a kid that will do well in society rather than the alternative. Now, don't get me wrong, in an ideal lovey-dovey, hippie-fied world, we'd all be peace and love and understand the reality of our obvious and observable nature. But if you're so naive to think that you appreciating it means you can go out into society and just talk about it openly, first rule of Fight Club from Mark Sargent, don't talk about it. Well, it doesn't mean don't talk about it. That's the implication by the Fight Club analogy, isn't it? You know, yeah, they obviously talk about it. By the end, there's loads of clubs all over the bloody country, right? But in society, it's not acceptable to talk about punching people. And likewise, it's not necessarily acceptable to just flat smack people, as it gets now phrased. Yeah? But you need to understand those limitations that society places on you if you want to take part in it. You can bleat and moan about it all day, but it won't necessarily change 100 million people around you. Far from it. What will happen is you will suffer as a result. Now, you can try and change the overall paradigm, which is what we do on the couple of hours we're here each day. But does that mean that I do the exact same thing and debate people in a store about whatever subject that somebody's disagreeing about? No. Me, I put the mask on for the 25 seconds I'm required to do it and then get out so I don't have to wear it anymore. It's a nice parallel, right? And societally, people think the Earth's a sphere. So do you want to ruin their day when you're out just buying your beer or whatever it is that you do with your day? Probably not. I personally want the easiest life with the least hassle possible when I'm out and about doing my thing. I don't know about anybody else on the panel. For those of you who like the aggravation, I'm looking at you, Chocolate, and poke the bear all day long at work. You smile and laugh and enjoy that, and I get it. That isn't me. I want an easy life. I don't want the confrontation. I do it for a living, right? But that's different for every person. But just to get this back onto the track that was brought up by Neil, excellent point, by the way, Neil. Yeah, you've got to have children understanding what is acceptable as opposed to what is correct in certain circumstances, and this is one of them.
Anyway, this happened Friday, and my son asked me yesterday. He said, "Dad, did you bring it up on your show?" I said, "No, but I will bring it up tomorrow." But it did warm my heart that my son knew the right answer and giggled as he put the wrong answer down.
It's better than that, Neil. He knows to come to you and say, "Dad, look at this. I can spot these problems in society." That's someone you got to be proud of, because he's critically thinking. He's not just looking at it. He's telling you why it's wrong. But I have to put that, Dad, because I'm not daft.
So I forgot the most important thing, and I asked him, this is the best thing. I said, "Why is that not true?" He said, "Because you can't have gas pressure out of container."
Ooh. Sounds like progress, Neil.
There's hope for the 10-year-old. 14-year-old, he's in the middle. But the 18-year-old, oh my God, he's still yesterday, because we're at my in-laws' house. And he's all about the 2 points in the sky, and it just gets into a big bloody battle. So I didn't even go there.
Mike 808 from the chat says, terrible analogy regards to masks. Well, my bad. Live show. So you do better on the spot.
The terrible analogy is it doesn't take 25 seconds, Nathan. You got to wear that mask for 10 minutes. When I'm in the store with my wife, it's like an hour.
Don't turn this into lecturing me about masks, right? I haven't done that. What are you doing? Just a bad analogy. My bad. Oh, God. Sleeping Warrior's triggered. What's going on, Sleeping Warrior? What are you presenting before I stick it up? I don't trust you.
Well, before you go there, I wanted to say something about Neil Armstrong. I was 10 years old and watched that whole magic trick. So now it's a historical event to many people listening to the show, and even on the panel who weren't even born. So
remember though, history is written by the winners. So if NASA are perceived to be the winners, they can write anything they like.
No, I know. That's the point I'm making this up, because that's the point, not that I'm making this up, but I'm bringing this up. Sorry. So I saw it. I saw the Walter Cronkite. I saw the whole thing. I'm 10 years old. Of course, like into it, like, wow, and then it's like, but at school, I'm arguing the logistics of it all with my teachers when it comes to these issues, and they are saying, well, I don't even believe it, but I got to teach it. So this is to Nathan's point, and Adam's point, you got to answer the test to pass the grade because you live in this society, or you're just going to get stuck there. But you don't have to believe it.
Just for those of you in the chat that are going to start getting into this, I wasn't trying to open up a debate on masks. It was just an analogy. Okay, if it was a poor analogy, I take it back. Not the purpose. I'm not trying to debate the whys and wherefores of masks. Anthony, what are you presenting?
I want to talk about Good Times for All's latest video, why things go down.
Oh God, can I round out the previous conversation? Because
Yes, you can. Go ahead, Arwen.
I was just reminded by all the talk about the very, very first time I first saw the moon landing astronauts, like not in real on the TV, right? And that was while I basically was not surrounded by people that were aware about that it's faked. And I remember that I was such an enthusiast. Look, I've been into space Legos like my entire youth, right? Really, really into it. Like I wanted to do that. I wanted to go. I wanted to design space stations. And really serious to myself. But when I first saw that footage of them on stage talking about how they went to the moon landing, that was such a shock on a visceral level. Like I really did not understand why they were so demoralized, why I was so enthusiastic, and that really like rubbed off on me. It was a giant shock to see that because nobody could really explain it to me, like why they were like that, and it was oozing off them. And I'm a very sensitive person, so that oozed right onto me. It was very shocking first time.
Yeah, because humans wouldn't act that way, especially if you just achieve the greatest achievement that humans could achieve. You wouldn't come back and look like somebody just shit in your cornflakes or shot your puppy. Like it makes no sense to act that way.
Yeah,
right.
couldn't have said it better
And
myself.
nobody around me was able to explain why. You know, my parents didn't understand why. And that was even more shocking about it.
In that regard, just before we move on to Sleeping Warrior, I've got you presented, but we'll come to you in a sec, Sleeping Warrior. Check out Richard D. Hall, where he pays a forensic analyst to study the behavior of those astronauts in that interview. It's epic. So Richard D. Hall is anti-flat Earth. Before you give me a load of grief about recommending something that gives us crap, I don't care. His interview in this regard, or he paid the guy to just analyse the footage, and he did, and he presented it unbiased, said they were lying. There's no other way to say it. Anyway,
I saw that. I second that suggestion.
The Richard D. Hall
brutal video.
Right, but they weren't only lying; they were lying and not happy about it.
Yeah,
like that.
Okay, right. Good times for all. Keep this as brief as you can. And this is an internal issue that I'm hoping doesn't get that much airtime. But go ahead.
So people have asked me what do I think of Good Time for All latest video, and obviously my channel's recently been removed and then replaced with the same one of the same name. But I'm going to present my thoughts on it. His thumbnail says why things go down. So if we open the video and then we go into the 9th minute or so, we can see that he gives a demonstration where, to be fair to him, he's demonstrating something happening. Now, he's got helium balloons attached to a wire, which he passes a current to and from, and it causes an acceleration. Now, my first point to this is, where do we see this in real world? Where do we ever see the change in voltage in the atmosphere causing things to jump up and down the way he's showing? Now, I've got it paused here. He says the Earth's negative charge establishes the downward force. Okay, so what he's saying is that
just let Anthony get to the end.
Right.
Mute would be a good thing, Darwin. Thank you. So where do we see this in real world? Where do we see anything change in polarity based on the perception of a charge? Do we see this? Now, what he's done is he's created a circuit, right? And no one disputes that there's a circuit that's created, and no one disputes that you can rub a balloon on your jumper and stick it to the wall and it'll stay there for a short period while the static's there. No one disputes this. It's not contentious. He's showing us something that we are familiar with. The trouble is, do we see it in the real world? Because if we don't see it real world, then he's creating this himself. Essentially, I see this like a solenoid. It's a basic solenoid, but I'll come back to it in a sec. The claim here is that the Earth's negative charge establishes the downward force. And then he talks about it. So what he's essentially arguing is this. Let me come back out of this here. Let me make sure that I've not missed anything here. Yeah, this is essentially what he's trying to describe. So what he's saying is because the Earth's negatively charged, and he's saying that the electric field is above us, he's basically arguing that there is a flow, from the sky down to the ground in energy all the time. It's like rain in energy. Now, I've described this before, and he seems to have put this into play. Now, what I want to show is this. Two things. This is basically a solenoid. Imagine this turned 90 degrees. So it's resembling what he's talking about. He's got, essentially, he's got a current passing between two plates when he does his jumping thing up and down. And that's essentially what a solenoid's doing. He's showing us a solenoid in his video. That is literally what he's showing us. And I want to go to this part where he gets this thing where it's jumping, this little jumping little flea thing. Where is it? Here somewhere. Where's his little jumping flea? I did have it a minute ago. I've lost. Is this it? He had a part where he was talking about the two plates, and he was showing something like sprigging between the two. And what I wanted to show people is, why can I not find it now? I wanted to show people that when he's got these two plates up and he's got his little, I'll call it a flea, little black thing, jumping between the two sprigs. It must be in the previous video. Just bear with me while I find it. I think it might have been this one. Should have had this queued up. It's my mistake. Apologies. What he's got is two plates, and he's arguing that like the ground is one of the plates, and then the sky is the other plate. And if you pass a current between the two, you can make your little flea jump up and down. Now, again, where do we see this in real world? But the point is that he's creating the charge. Now, in his video, I can't actually find it now. I don't know where it's. I don't know where it's gone. But forget it. I'll do it with this. In the real world, we do see things that do accelerate up and down, right? And we can control it. We can demonstrate it. We see things floating in water. We see things like seem to float in air, like smoke seems to float in air. We see things that sink in water. We see things that sink in air, but we also see things that rise in air, and we see things rise in water. And we can demonstrate it by manipulating the density of the medium or the object, and we can cause acceleration. We can demonstrate this, right? Now, he's demonstrating an acceleration, but where do we see it in the real world? If we don't see it real world, all he's doing is causing an acceleration. Well, that's fine, but it doesn't apply. It's a non sequitur argument. It's a red herring argument because we don't see it in the real world. Now, even if we do see it real world, and there might be an example somewhere where I can see it, what Zach's actually demonstrating is in his actual video, and I do need it now because he put it in his video. He's basically describing a flow out of the sky, and he's claiming that it's causing a rotation. It's causing a flow. The problem is the claim that he makes is based around a movement that doesn't actually happen. The movement that he's referring to, the movement would be actually the right-hand rule, which is the flow of the current going from one to the other causes a rotation, but it doesn't cause an acceleration up down the way he describes it. It causes a rotation. It's called the right-hand rule, and it's a rotation laterally. And we see lateral rotation with hurricanes and things like that. That's probably the reason why there is spin to the hurricanes, because of and I'm not saying it definitely is, but what I am saying is that he's claiming that there's a current flow that causes an acceleration, but we don't actually see it. So, and I can't even find it now, but my point was, we don't see it in the real world. So that's my response to Zach. Yes, you can cause acceleration with the use of static and charge potential, but we don't see it in the real world. So where is that? We need that bit first. Darwin?
What? No. I'm okay.
Only while you're talking that he wants Mike. Okay.
I just wanted to open it up because I know Darwin might have had something to say.
I would only add that my only problem with this, why do things fall? not everything that falls, is it? So why do things that fall? What about the things that don't fall? What does that have to do with what's going on here? See what I'm saying?
Well,
Like, just
what he's
the title
demonstrating
itself,
here.
why do things fall? Well, not everything falls. So why do certain things fall? Are we being specific? Or, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think
A little off of it.
I think chocolate. You're
Why
saying
do
there is
some
no
things stay
universal
still?
downward bias.
The bias is the problem I have. Yes.
I agree. What he's
that's
demonstrating in his
if
video.
that's what he's asserting, that there is a bias. I don't,
Yeah,
we can
he
have
is.
the reasoning. Yeah, I'm sorry.
He's demonstrating. This is the bit I wanted to show. He's demonstrating that with these little clips. I'm hoping that I'm still being presented here. He's showing that these. Here we go. He's showing that these things are being attracted one way, and then you can do it the opposite way. So he's showing it go one way and then the other. So he's showing it go up and down, but he's claiming it's a downwards bias. Well, he's showing it doing it both ways, which is basically reversing the polarity of the charge. But he's representing it only the one way, even though it's demonstrated both. So it's just a contradiction in terms. It seems to be deceptive in the sense that he's saying it's one thing, but it's actually both, and he's ignoring the second part to it. He's demonstrating that it goes up and down, not just down. Yet he'll have you believe that that's the reason why things go down, and it isn't the reason why things go down. Again, he's got it with the balloon. He's demonstrating that he can make something go down, but if he reverses the polarity of the charge, the balloon then goes back up. But he's describing it as the reason why things go down, and it isn't the reason why things go down. Now, that was the other thing I wanted to add. I forgot to mention. I repeated this recently with a 2-liter bottle of pop. And what I did was I filled it with water, got the egg suspended, and I increased its height so that I could observe more of a gradient and perceive smaller movements. And I used a car battery with a wire at the bottom and a wire at the top to create the circuit. And I sprigged it made it and braked it. And the egg didn't move. Electrolysis began to happen if I left it on for too long, but making and breaking didn't cause any acceleration. Now, what that tells me is that the charge potential that Zach's got cannot cause that acceleration of the egg. Now, the real world example of that would be if there's something in the ocean and there's the sun coming over your head and then going over at nighttime, you would expect that to cause a change in ionic discharge or charge potential. You'd expect it to have a buoyant effect, perhaps, but it didn't do it for me. And I've tried to get them to repeat it and demonstrate that it can make the egg accelerate, because that is something real world that we can see. We can see things suspended in matter and we can cause them to accelerate, but can we do it with charge potential? And I was unable to do it. Now, it might be because I wasn't very good at it. It might be because I'm biased, but it isn't my claim. I just did it myself rough to see if I could get it to accelerate, and it didn't do anything. So my claim is that they can't cause a demonstration real world with charge potential other than the thing that he shows, which no one disputes. And the reason is there's an inertia involved with the egg. It's got a resistance to move. Whereas the thing that he's pushing, the little tiny little sprig chick thing, the little chickpea or whatever you want to call it, that's got such a small amount of mass. It demonstrates how weak the charge is. So therefore, if it's not strong enough to cause something with real mass, real inertia to move, then realistically you can't claim it's the cause for things going down if it isn't actually able to do it. But they don't want to repeat it. They don't want to test it real world and show us that it can do it. They're happy to accept that ultimately they can make these things do it within their test. It's a bit like Cavendish experiment. Now, just pushing that point one step further, if he was to turn his plates laterally 90 degrees, if I go back to his video, you can see that the movement then wouldn't be up and down. It would actually be laterally. Now, you would perceive that as left and right, but it's still positive to negative, right? But positive to negative is what he's showing on screen, and it would still be positive to negative, but we would call it left and right. So that, again, directions are relative to the observer. He's still really the correct units that he should be referring to is positive and negatively charged, not up and down. So if you were to turn the plate sideways, left and right would then become positive and negative charged. But again, it's a sleight of hand to make you think something that's not real world. He's just labeling that way because it supports his vision for the sky raining down energy like rain. It's nonsense in my eyes.
Okay.
Can I comment?
because Anthony's starting to
Okay.
repeat himself. So thank you,
So,
Anthony.
so Anthony, go back to the one where he's got the wire hooked up to the balloon and just hold it there. Right there, yeah. There we go. All right. This is what's happening here. I don't see that in nature. This is him tying some kind of charge through this wire and flicking a switch, and it's causing something. Now, if I see that in nature, that's different. But this is man doing it. So we don't see any of this stuff. The other thing is, I'm walking through my house this weekend, and everything I touch, I get a spark and a charge. Static electricity is everywhere right now. But last week, it wasn't here at all. So that has to do with the weather and certain other things. But we've all experienced that. There's certain times where things stick to certain type of clothing, and other times it doesn't stick to other type of clothing. But what they're trying to say is that this is happening, and it's so negligible is the word that they use, but they're going to extra efforts to tie wires to balloons and make it not negligible. They want to prove this is something that we observe in nature all the time. Well, just show it to us first in nature, and then we can design some kind of hypothesis or experiment to see if it's true. But we don't see it in nature. We see it with you taking a wire, tying it to a balloon, and flipping the switch. So you're causing it. That's all.
You're right.
I have a question that relates to this.
Go ahead.
Like the whole idea is that there's this attractive force pulling things down, and it's electromagnetism based. Wouldn't you then be able to flip a magnet over and it would fall upwards at 9.8 meters per second? Or am I completely misunderstanding their claim?
Anthony did cover that. He said
Wouldn't
the
you-
same would happen if you turned it sideways. So yeah, he kind of covered that. But I don't know if you want to expand on that, Anthony.
If you, Nathan just said it, if you turn the two plates sideways and then flip the charge either way, then you're going to cause lateral movement. But because he's got it lined up north to south or up to down, it supports his perception that the sky's raining energy down like rain. Well, that does support his assertion, but it really the correct, because up and down are relative to the human, the correct units is charged against not charged or flip charge, more energy, less energy, positively charged, negatively charged, whatever phraseology you want to use. Flicking the switch and passing the current is the cause of it. But the orientation of it is subject to the human, the observer, which he could do it in any direction he wants. But that doesn't give it an up and down. It just means polarity is being switched, and you're seeing the switch in polarity. There's no direction there. There's a magnitude, but there's no direction. So essentially, it's like miles per hour. There's no direction in miles per hour, but there is a magnitude. Well, that's what Zach's demonstrating, but he's pinning a direction on it because of the orientation he's put it in. It's just misrepresentative.
Yeah, but doesn't your egg test in itself disprove them? Because you put salt and you change the medium the egg is in, and the egg didn't go down; it rose, right? So where's their force pulling that egg down at that point? Why is it not able to pull that egg down at that point?
I'm glad you pointed that out, because I didn't want to say that, but it's absolutely true. If there was a downward bias, the way he describes, then the egg test itself demonstrates that that's not actually true. And that was obviously 18 months ago. So if he's claiming that and then he's immediately debunked with the application of what I showed, it might only be a 5-year-old's experiment, but correctly interpreted, it demonstrates why we have the acceleration. And it is because of the manipulation of the medium relative to the thing in question. It's got nothing to do with charge potential, but they have got the challenge to demonstrate it. And I know it doesn't work. Now, they're not going to do it because it's convenient for them to turn a blind eye to it. But it just takes a 2-litre bottle of pop, and the egg, the water, the salt, and then pass the charge through it and just make and break it, just sprig it so that it makes and breaks. And it doesn't move. If you start doing it for too long, it starts electrolysis. But the point is, it doesn't cause acceleration the way they say. Why? Don't know. But when I tested it, it didn't do it. So if I've got it wrong, then they can demonstrate that I did get it wrong. But I can't think more than that, because I just convert it into the real world application that we do see to see if anything can cause an acceleration, and it doesn't seem to do it.
Well, I know that
maybe this.
Oh, go on.
Maybe this is dumb. Okay, and so, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So I mean, if if this is an up and down thing, like sky and ground, like what's up with compasses then? Like, wouldn't that be affected by this?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask something
Or is
that
that
I
a
was
dumb
going to
question?
allude to, but anyone want to answer that? Because you said ground. I thought you were going somewhere I was going to go with it, but
Re-ask the question, please.
Eli, can you say it again?
Up and down, right? Things are ordered magnetically because of the up and down, right? But then what's up with compasses then, right? Because the north is over there.
Well, they say that the compass is lining up to the field rather than pointing north. So all it's doing is turning its shoulders to be facing the wind rather than being square into the wind, because that's all it's doing. It's lining up with the field. But the compass arguments are nonsense. Compasses, I've always thought compass arguments silly for a ball, because it would have to point. It doesn't matter.
So Brian's video highlighted this, and I have a tendency to agree in terms of it, at least his line of questioning. Well, when you earth something or send it to ground, you've got a really good house ground. It's dug right into the earth. But there's an assertion being made that there's a positive charge. I mean, has that actually been established? I mean, even if it has, we're talking about incoherent dielectric acceleration, right? Well, that's all well and good, but this principle that was, I think, laid out by Zach as just how do we explain this principle we know is the case? How do we actually know it's the case before we start explaining it? Has that been established that we have a definite, I can't remember if he said negative or positive now, I think it was negative charge. The Earth's got a negative charge.
Well, if you research the pyramids, you can see that the pyramids seem to be utilizing the static charge in the atmosphere, the positively charged ions in the atmosphere. So for me personally, the fact that they exist indicates that there is energy up there, because that is what I believe they were doing. They were utilizing it, the charge of potential in the atmosphere. I have heard of it. I've never seen it demonstrated to be proven to be true.
I wasn't asking that. That's not what I asked. I know there's a charge potential in the atmosphere. I'm saying this assertion that the ground just sounds weird to even ask. Is the ground positively charged? That doesn't make sense as a statement.
No, I think what the problem is that if the ground was negatively charged the way he says, then all the ions will be immediately attracted towards it, and that's not what happens. They sit up there in a state of flux, this like randomly floating around. So it needs something to pass the current. It needs a way of it needs a conduit, like a lightning rod or something like that, to be able to get them to get down to you. There's some reason why they don't come down, but once there is enough, then we see lightning strikes, and then that's them arcing it out. But I don't know why. I don't know why he argues or why he makes it sound like it's raining positively charged ions. There do seem to be ions up there, but they're staying up there. They're not coming down very often. So there's not a flow the way he describes it.
Right, but I just read out Paula's comment. There's positive and negative are just indicators of direction, but voltage is always with respect to ground. Shout out to Chico 2J joining as a member. Anyone got anything else to add before we move into the after show? Didn't actually shout out the super chat I had. Thank you very much to Retro Bill. This discussion is an offensive microaggression against Michelle Thaler. What?
Michelle rocks on my cousin Thaler.
Michelle Thaler? The one with the rocks, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's the same girl.
Rocks are your cousins too? Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hey, I have a cousin named Rocky. I keep telling you that.
Does anybody understand that reference? Because I don't get it. Thank you very much, all the same Retro Bill, for the super chat. If you remember, please explain yourself in the next minute or so. Before I round out, I'll keep the show open in case we do get an explanation for that. Anyone on the panel get that?
The conclusion we can make is that ultimately we don't see it real world. He's created it. Cool. Sounds like it's basically a solenoid. He's created a solenoid and expected us to believe that the flow of energy is what we see real world, and it's a false equivalence. We don't see it.
With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley channel member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Sure. But when you have to go to a man-made apparatus to show it, then you can't say it's natural.
Correct.
So just show it to us in nature without the wires, and then we have a starting point.
Spiders.
I think spiders ballooning. Spiders ballooning. Could we argue that?
Well, if I had silk coming out of my wrist, I could be control, fall, and I could just, and if it sticks to things, I could do what spiders do. Absolutely.
I know, but spiders and the twine is that light. It's like almost as if they're riding a thermal current, and it looks like they're riding a thermal current. So I'm sure I could just easily say that they're riding a thermal current and provide no evidence that it's true whatsoever, and just accept that it's probably true.
Well, they are, because I've seen them flying in the wind and hit me in the face.
I've seen them fly in the wind as well. Doesn't mean it's doesn't mean that they're ballooning the way that they say.
No.
Well, does it ever happen when the wind is perfectly still? Or does it only happen when there's a slight breeze?
Well, I've had spiders in my greenhouse, and when the sides are down and the doors are closed, there is no wind. And obviously, in the summer months, I have to take up the sides and open the door so we have a airflow. So I'll have to do a what can I say, a test. But I think I know what I'm going to find out.
So do you think that a breeze is required for it to happen, or that they really just do it anyway, even in wind still situations?
Well, they got the silk. They can, but it takes the breeze to take it somewhere, or if it's close enough, or if they can make some kind of apparatus that acts as an air brake with the silk, and they're light themselves. So we just have to study spiders and see what's going on. But again, what is that proving?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even know why they use the spiders. The spider got electrically charged silk?
Well, they're using the spiders to argue that it's a naturally occurring phenomena, that we see spiders ballooning.
For spiders.
But ultimately,
where's the electrically charged silk?
That's it. And if you were to put a spider's web in a charged field potential, like between two plates, like a power and a charge and a negative, would you be able to get the spider's web to move up and down? I suspect not.
The nature lovers would come and arrest you for torturing the spiders. That's what would happen.
Not if there wasn't an effect, they couldn't. If you could cause the spider to fly up and down, like basically mash with his head, then maybe. But unless you get that's the problem. It seems to be just one of those explanations where they pluck it out of thin air, literally, and say that seems to be plausible. Therefore, we're having it.
Well, yeah, but if you're trying to prove what they're trying to prove, this universal downward bias, and you have to stretch, pun intended, to a spider, why don't you show it with something else, like a rock?
Right. And even like the two plates set up, it's a very short distance. So why don't you expand that up to, say, 2 meters? let's see how well you get it to work without just massive, massive energy output. Hey, which you can actually measure, right? So if you then scale it up to terrestrial sized, that's going to be a lot of power that is very measurable. That's going to have a constant influence. So this was my problem with this whole angle to an explanation for gravity for a long time. It's totally untenable.
That's even the worst stretch if they're trying to tie it to gravity all the way there using static electricity that's in the air when the weather changes more than less when it's not. And then spiders in their natural way that they do things. I mean, this is a big stretch to having this downward force to explain gravity. That doesn't exist because it's not even what it is anymore.
Oh, what about matter that would be that wouldn't be charged, neutral within such a setup? If the electrostatics, or the dielectric, whatever, if that is the cause for the lateral displacement, for the vertical displacement as the sole cause, then why aren't there just neutrally charged rocks floating all over the place? Right?
Well, you're just saying, show it to us in nature, and then we have a starting point, but they can't. I mean, you see when the sun comes through the window, all these dust particles in your room. You open the window and the breeze comes and just whooshes them away. And then you got to get to some kind of cloth and get it off. You know, if you haven't been into the attic or your garage for a while, it settles on the desk and you wipe off the desk of all the dust. Well, you're going to go there and use that to prove gravity?
Yo, what's up, guys?
Yo,
Hello.
yo.
Mute, Anthony.
Be
please.
back.
Oh.
Say again, Nathan.
I could just see you cracking a Coke or something.
Oh, sorry. Swapping an SD card out.
Dr. La? Hello.
Anybody in there in Discord?
I'm here.
Hey guys, question.
Anybody seen Richie?
Question.
Go ahead.
Have you guys researched flat Earth?
Never. Have you?
Earth flat?
What is that? What is that?
You
What
got to
do
be
you mean
trolling
it's
us,
flat?
right? No one thinks the Earth's flat.
Not at all, man. Gas goes down, boom,
At the
boom.
same time, nobody claims that the horizon is the Earth curvature. So we're at an impasse, it seems.
Right, I had to explain to
gravity.
somebody in Discord earlier, 24/7 yesterday, how there is a curve on a ball. Now the guy was kind of trolling, but still, you know, how long before the ballers just completely intellectually erase the fact that a ball has a curve that obstructs things? How long is it going to take before that just completely erases from their consciousness entirely?
Probably more than an arc minute.
I don't know, man. The future of Star Wars battles, man, sounds too fun.
Well, you can have your fantasy. Those are just fun little entertainment things. That's all.
Dude, science fiction is awesome. I love it.
I like
These,
watching it too.
these
I
people
just know
are
it's not real.
never, ever going to change their mind. When you have Jim Panda literally saying he sees curvature because of a flat horizon, we got a problem. Because they are literally saying, oh, I see flat, I see nothing but that. However, I see curvature because I believe in a geometric horizon. I
Yeah,
can't
he's a
help
flat
something like
baller,
that
isn't he?
because that's all
He sees
Narnia
a flat
belief.
plane and thinks it's a ball.
That's not what a flat baller is, Tony. A flat baller is an actual model. The flat ball. I don't know anybody out there that's an actual flat baller.
A flat
He's more of a
baller
math
has all the
baller.
air taken out of his argument.
What?
Boom, boom. Oh my God, you didn't get
Who
that
wants
one
to be a
already?
math baller?
I didn't want to get it. Okay.
They wanted to get.
No, but sure that I don't think it's that unreasonable to assume that as time progresses in the next few years, there will be ballers that will be perfectly fine with declaring, yeah, it's a ball. I know it looks perfectly flat because of optics that I don't fully understand. So it always looks kind of flat, right? I think that they'll start to get to the point where they really will just concede that they can never see the ball, they can only calculate it.
They already have.
They're doing it now.
They already
They're
have.
doing it now.
No, but they're doing it, but I mean consciously.
They are
Like,
consciously
really
doing
know
it.
at some point.
Quote, the geometric horizon only exists in the maths. Quote, we wouldn't expect to see geometry. Quote, nobody's claiming the horizon is Earth curve. They're saying it. They're already doing
but
it.
you're assuming they actually know what the hell they're saying in that moment. Okay? I'm talking about consciously accepting it.
You're saying
I don't think they know
unconsciously
what
their
they're
lips are
saying at
moving
this
and
point.
they're saying these words that debunk their own religion. That's what you're saying. It's unconscious as their lips move. It's not.
But they're
like
not
it, Arwen.
realizing what it is, though. Right?
No, but hang
Yeah,
on.
they are,
using it
because
as
they're
defense right
calling the
now.
horizon that's already defined as apparent. They're calling it apparent. So that's why we've been telling them welcome to fucking flat Earth, man. Because they understand. Yeah, their horizon is not geometric. That's why they've been telling us it's apparent. So they know. They might not accept it, but they know what they're saying. Some of them, anyway.
You know why navigators at sea use charts, flat maps? They know. How do you think they chart their course? Because it's flat.
It is kind of weird though, because they say it's in the maths only, but then they go, it's physical. I can't do both. So how is this happening in the brain?
Called cognitive dissonance.
Religion.
Yep.
Right. Well, and my claim is that the ballers at some point will get out of the cognitive dissonance and be clear about how it is. Like they really can't see it. They're not going to try
That's
to
not what's
claim it
holding
will
them
be
back.
visual. They will know kind of the process that they've been forced into doing and then accept it fully. Not even question that you're supposed to see the curve anymore.
But
they will just
that's
say,
not
no,
the
it looks
reason they're
flat. It
fighting
looks
you.
absolutely flat.
But that's not the reason they're fighting it, Arwen.
No, they're fighting it right now because it just hurts, because they've been kind of told that you can see it.
No,
and they
no,
trust
you're missing. No, you're missing what I'm saying. That's not the real motivation of why they're fighting it. Nathan's alluded to it.
Have I?
Oh, yeah, many times. Because if that is true, then all the other things that they're afraid of dealing with, they're going to have to deal with. So to not deal with other things, they have to keep their cognitive dissonance and fight, because they can't handle true reality and that they're going to be accountable one day to a creator.
Exactly. It's about time. Thank you very much. Precisely.
I totally agree with that. I'm just saying at some point, with enough time given, they will kind of get over that. They'll still hang on to it.
No,
in
they
their
won't.
minds.
Nope, because they'll have to reckon with the creator. Way to go, 10th. You got it. You're all over it.
Can I add something to that?
I could argue that the creator allows the globe as a concept to exist. That's why it's so prevalent.
What?
Can I just add something to that? So, hold on. Prior to your,
Can I jump in?
hold on. prior to your analogy, right, with the pearly gates and reckoning with the creator, prior to that, and upon realization of the awful truth that the Earth is obviously and observably flat, and all the things 10th Man suggested about, which is that you'd have to face other things that you've been deceived about, you've then got to do the most difficult thing that I would assume that they don't want to do, which I've also done, and I'm smiling about it now, which is open up your own closet of monsters and have a good deep look inside, knowing that you've got to assess those things yourself and face the awful nature of your own horribleness, right? And all the horrible things you've done. Now, a lot of people in a nihilistic, heliocentric outlook can close the door on those things and never look back, right? It's just a big super nothing. None of it really matters. Well, when you realise that you might actually be on your knees in front of a creator, suddenly that door, you know it's behind you, you know it's covered in cobwebs, and you know you've got to open it and face it. None of them want to do that.
QE, is that because the first law only applies to the closed system?
Huh?
I thought you said that the first law of thermodynamics proves God, right? Because it's over nature.
First law and the second law.
Pardon? And second
Well,
law?
the first law could do it by itself, yes, but it's usually a combination between the first and second law.
So if they have their heliocentric model, then doesn't that violate the first law too? Or can it still include it? Because then wouldn't there be a creator in both?
Heliocentric model, I think you're getting topics misconstrued.
Or sorry, the Big Bang theory, I guess.
Yeah, the Big Bang violates first law, yeah. Well, number one, it's not a scientific theory. So let's just put that to bed now.
Yes, to answer your question.
The Big Bang? I'm sorry, Nathan, I didn't mean to cut you off.
The first law debunks their origin story, if that's what you're asking.
When was the Big Bang story conceived again? Was it the
I think
60s?
it was dealing with the cabal.
19 something. Was it 17 or 20? What was it?
Hypothesis of the Primeval Atom by Abby Georges Lemaitre. Was it 1927? Somewhere around that.
Maybe it may have been 27 or 17, something like that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's one of them.
Somebody look it up.
Yeah, but that's the previous one.
No, that is the
They
one.
put
There is
faith
no
in-
previous one.
What?
There is no previous one.
They put some more faith into it with string
thought-
theory and the cabal. I know that part.
What?
You haven't heard the claims?
I haven't heard the claims. I don't even know what to say to that. So I guess you'd have to support your claims. You'd have to know what string theory was, which isn't an actual scientific theory, by the way. And then you'd have to get the cabal out and then start reading, and then start, not with these general, ambiguous, ballpark. And I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt claims. You got to get very hyper specific, man.
Quantum is 1917. I thought it was 1917. I just thought that may have been something else too, but it's 1917.
From Abby Georges Lemaitre? No way.
Who came up with parallel universes?
A set of twin scientists, maybe?
1931.
Let me share with you
1931, he
a
published
conversation
it
I had
in
with my dad
Nature,
over the
so
weekend.
somewhere around that
It's now a
vicinity.
good time for the segue.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Anthony. I'm sure you had something really important to add to that. Go ahead.
I think he did.
Oh, did he rumpus me while he was adding it? Right. So I say again, Lemaitre published it in the journal Nature in 1931. So somewhere around that vicinity, right? Not 1917. Nah, that's too early.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm seeing that in 1917 when I look it up. It's stating that.
And who is George Lemaitre?
Jesuit Catholic priest, known as
And-
the father of modern cosmology. That's their high priest. They don't know it, which is friggin' hilarious.
Yeah,
So they
that's
rail
why I
against
asked the
religion
question.
when their father is the most religious person that probably ever walked the earth.
Isn't that crazy? It's so crazy.
Yeah, they're like PETA nudist fur traders.
Same goes for Cavendish, right? Reverend John Michelle.
Cavendish. That numpty hillbilly blue balls, the redneck retard, aka the photosynthetic regular, aka no marble science. He's doing that non-experiment that was superseded. The whole concept was superseded 105 years ago. Where's 106 now?
106.
What a numpty.
Do you offer a hypothesis by any chance?
Oh, he has a hypothesis. Yes. His hypothesis is mass attracts other mass.
Not a hypothesis.
And then he defined mass as the resistance to acceleration. So, if you substitute the definition for the words, then this is his hypothesis. Given the resistance to acceleration attracts the resistance to acceleration.
Or, aka, if mass, then mass attracts mass.
Same thing. I just
That's
used the
copyrighted.
definition that he used, which isn't mass, by the way. That's inertia. But we used, but because he was so forthright and strong in his, you know what mass is, so we'll use that. You should be institutionalized.
Are you going to give me a copyright?
Copyright on what? On what?
The resistance of acceleration. The resistance to acceleration attracts the resistance to acceleration.
That's correct. Just see the numpty clips. It's right in there.
Wow.
You haven't been listening to the numpty clips.
Yeah, I know. Why? Did you say that before I said that in the chat?
I don't know what you said in the
late to the
chat.
party?
I'm looking up Knucklehead Lemaitre. So that's what I was doing.
I'm saying I said the exact thing in the chat. Resistance to acceleration.
Oh, did you?
attracts the resistance to acceleration.
Oh, the copyright thing. Yeah, you copyright me constantly. Well, you're not the only one.
Chaka, you have a habit of repeating yourself today. Why is that?
Hey, call me Johnny two times. Get the papers. The papers.
Johnny.
Classic.
Wasn't it Tony 2 times?
I don't know, but he got the line right. I'm going to get the papers. Get the papers.
I thought it was Johnny two times.
Was it Johnny? I'm going to have to
wrong.
check that out. I think it was Tony 2 times. I could be mistaken, though. It's been a while.
Really got a few choices.
I wanted to.
It's going to be Tony or PT or Paul or Paulie.
I wanted to just bring it back to what 10th Man said about them.
Said that far too fast for me.
10th Man said about what?
About talking about that they don't want to meet the reason they don't want to change is because they're atheists and they don't want to meet their creator. They don't want to face that.
Precisely.
So, but I wanted to get clarity in their worldview. If what they assume about the globe and the universe is true, does that mean that the first law can't be true as well? I don't know how to phrase.
The laws of thermodynamics are absolutely true. These knuckleheads, they're caught. It's so mind-numbing that the lack of consistency and any coherence whatsoever in the argument, not even talking about any scientific evidence. We're not even talking natural science, just ground squirrel level reasoning. They are so screwed 6 ways from Sunday. They don't even realize it. That's what's so hilarious. But they're tied by the neck by the ball and chain fairy tale religion, and it is a religion of atheism. That's it. Period.
They're basically claiming at a certain scale that these laws break down.
No, this is
No,
a
no, no.
philosophical. This is
No,
a
no.
philosophical
No,
thing, man.
let me just correct that. No, they don't argue that they break down. They argue that they don't apply.
Everything's different up there.
Special pleading.
It's not so
Correct,
much don't
Neil.
apply, it's that special things happen to allow the story to continue. So we can break the first law to have the Big Bang, and then shit don't really fit in terms of how everything's laid out if it worked like that. So we have special accretion for the first few seconds so that it can fit and stay within the bodged paradigm. That's kind of the purpose of the Big Bang, because none of it makes sense in atheism. They still have to have a creation. So they have this pretend creation called the Big Bang, where they still don't really go back far enough. If you don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
I love the maths for
You
it.
just say things like, turns out there's a magic speed.
Yeah.
Just say things like that and come up with some cool mathematics afterwards, and then there you have it. Bob's your uncle.
But their maths for it's bizarre. Divide by 0, get everything in existence.
You caught
But
that,
what
didn't
if
you?
Bob
That's
is my
stuck with
uncle?
you all this time, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, that's just one of those things that you think. So in maths, there's certain absolutes, or they're not if you just want to change them. You know what I mean? Something you understand to be true as a principle in maths, they suddenly say, well, no, the way we describe this mathematically is absurd. But that's our origin story.
Well, they don't want.
They don't
the
even know their
origin
origin story. They don't even
They
know
don't
it.
want the
They can't even define
Sorry.
atheism. You want to have some fun. Get a few atheists together and ask them what it is. Get
They
your
don't even
popcorn
know.
out.
Well, what's a theist?
Nathan,
Believe it in the creator.
They are theists. They believe in a creator. They just don't know. They just don't know it. Their creator is nature. It all goes back to the ontological primitives. They don't know it. They keep on saying atheism, it's a lack of this, it's a lack of that, it's a lack of belief. No, you don't define something as the lack of something else, right? If I ask you to define a banana, you don't say it's a lack of axle grease, right? That's preposterous. So they don't even know what it is. So
Well, it is
what it
slippery.
is their creator is nature.
Yeah,
Good
they
night.
have a god.
But
How
even
can
that's
nature
not
be the
valid.
creator?
Hold on, Tent's been trying to get in for the last 30 seconds or so. Go ahead, Tent.
No, I said they have a god. It's nature, just like John says. And in Romans chapter 1, verse 18, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress, this is what they do, suppress the truth in unrighteousness, because that which is known about God is evident within them, for God made it evident to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power, divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through that which has been made, so that they are without excuse. God used creation to show it came from somewhere with intelligence. They are denying that because they love something more than God.
Outstanding, Tent.
Other John, did you want
Well,
the last word? Or
Less than God.
hold on. Father,
Last word, 4 more hours.
where's Father
I
of the Stolen
last
Child
word.
gone? Has he dropped?
For the first, hang on, I got a last word. I just heard Kiwi say ground level squirrel reasoning. That it describes why they're nuts.
With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video. lovely day.